Now, we've talked about litter a lot on this programme. Regular listeners will know it's my bête noire, and every time we've done a phone-in about it, people have said, well, why are we one of the worst countries on the planet for littering in Great Britain? Well, what to do about it? Maybe there's a high-tech solution, and some research going on over half-term in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole has been using drones to spot the rubbish that was dropped on the beaches, and that could now lead to innovations to target problem litter areas. We've got Ellie Mackay, who's a scientist with Ellipsis Earth, who carried out the drone research, and Trewin Restorick from the environmental charity Hubbub with us. Hello, both.
Good morning.
Hi.
Nice to talk to you. Ellie, tell us first of all about the drones and how they do it, what they are looking for. Do they have sort of special litter sensors on them as they're flying around in the BCP area?
Sure. So we use drones over areas like beaches and the parks because we can cover a huge area very rapidly. But we also use smartphones. We use cameras on vehicles or even bicycles or scooters. And essentially what we're doing is just capturing imagery. So we're just creating an image database. And then we have a very sophisticated piece of software that can automatically recognize 47 different categories of litter within those images. So,
wow! I didn't know there were 47 different categories of litter. Once you've got can, crisp bag, driftwood, something like that, it's incredible.
We're adding new categories all the time. Just this year, we've obviously had to add PPE, face masks, and rubber gloves and things like that. So we're always adding new categories, and we're also refining and training the software to recognise categories with more accuracy as well.
And what did you find from this research with the drones and the other methods you've mentioned?
The really interesting thing about the level of detail that we can get is that we don't just build a sort of treasure map of where the most items are in terms of quantity, but also by type, whether they are have a high environmental impact, like very dense, hard plastic items like bottle caps, lids and straws, versus paper or cardboard, but also the different times of day that different litter items accumulate. So we're starting to see patterns and trends, for example, accumulations of alcohol and drugs-related litter on the beaches in the evenings overnight, in sort of concentrated areas towards the rear of the beach, compared to the bank holiday weekend and the half-term period, showing a lot more family-related items like wet wipes and toys actually quite close to the waterline. So in terms of the potential environmental impact they can have, this allows us to sort of target particular audiences for the anti-littering messaging at different times of day or night.
Well, that's what I want to ask you, Trewin, because we've got this fantastic range of data now. We know what people are dropping, when and where they are dropping it. But how does this actually help cut the litter problem?
So the most littered item were cigarette butts. And Hubbub's invented a voting cigarette bin, which we've been found sort of cut cigarette littering by around 30%. So you literally vote with your cigarette butt. So we've just put some bins in the area saying, you know, who would you rather pick? If you're the England manager, would it be Grealish or Sterling? So you can vote with your cigarette butt. And now we know exactly where we should put them. So, you know, we know in the high streets where the most littered cigarette butt areas are, you know, in the skate park in Bournemouth, railway crossing where there's a lot of cigarette butts because probably people have a crafty cigarette while they're waiting for the trains to go by.
Yeah.
So we know exactly where to put those bins. But the hot spots show us so much more. So we have something called tidy littering. So this is where people seem to want to do the right thing, but the bin's full. So what they do is they put their piece of litter very carefully next to the bin.
Yes. I see this quite a lot in parks around the summer, I have to say. People who haven't walked on to the next bin, but they thought, exactly. It's near the bin, that's good enough.
Yeah, that is good enough. And of course it isn't, because the seagulls get at it or the wind blows it, and very soon it can end up in the sea. So really simple things like how close is the next bin, and a little reminder about where the bin is. As Ellie mentioned, there's a lot of nighttime littering, so we've created what we think is the world's first disco bin, where if you put your litter in at night, it plays a little disco song for you and there's flashing lights. But just glow in the night bins so that people can see where the bins are. And all these things, we're trying to nudge behaviour away from this sort of terribly antisocial behaviour of just dropping stuff and hoping it won't end up in the sea or somebody else will pick it up.
Ellie, is there value in all the trends that you've identified and what's being dropped when and where, looking at how different it is in somewhere like Bournemouth or Christchurch to other parts of the world where you've done similar research? Is that helpful in combating littering?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the Bournemouth Christchurch Poole area is very, very popular destination in the UK. And what we can do is start to learn from areas where those trends are coming down, where the litter's improving. And we can look at, for example, the impact of something like a disco bin or the voting bins. We can see these innovative new engagement interventions and see which ones are working and where. And that can be compared around the world with different sites and other councils in the UK.
And Trewin, sort of the measures you've described there, like the disco bin and voting with cigarettes, they sound really fun. They sound a little bit like, without being patronising, the kind of thing we do in classrooms with kids to get them to do the right thing when they put their jumper away and, you know, get a sticker on the chart and all the rest of it. But as adults, we clearly respond to this kind of stuff as well. Otherwise, it wouldn't be working.
Yeah, I mean, we do. They're called nudge techniques, and it's sort of playful, different ways to get the message across. But we need to do bigger stuff as well. So, for example, on the seafront, a lot of the plastic fragments are from polystyrene food containers, which people leave on the beach. Then the seagulls attack the chips, break the polystyrene up in small bits of plastic, which can end up in the oceans. So we should be asking our questions like, why are we still using those containers? And then also we've seen loads of sachets, you know, those sauce sachets and napkins. Why are fast food chains giving out sort of 5 or 6 napkins every time somebody goes into a shop? We need to think about how do we stop the litter getting there in the first place, and what are the sort of changes we would like to see as a community which reduces littering and stops sort of plastic pollution in the beautiful sea around the area.
Well, some interesting ideas there. Trewin Restorick, who is from the charity Hubbub, and Ellie Mackay, who did the drone research with Ellipsis Earth. Now, there's two approaches there, isn't there? I love the idea of encouraging people to put their fag butts in 2 different tubes, voting on a subject like who Gareth Southgate should pick to start up front, or what would you vote for on this specific issue. I don't think it's legally binding, by the way, votes by cigarette butt. But it's a nice idea. There's that approach, the nudge approach that Trewin was talking about. And then there's the what does he call himself? I can't remember the name of the campaign. It's something like Clean Up Britain. He's been on the show before, and he says one of the reasons we are the dirtiest country in Europe is because the penalties aren't hard enough. His approach is, see someone littering, bang, £1,000 fine. That'll soon stop them if we give out a few £1,000 spot fines here, there and everywhere. So, I mean, what do you think is the best approach? Or maybe it's a combination of the two, the harsh fine and the nudge, nudge, nudge with the disco bins and the other fun ideas that we were talking about with our guests there. Let me know your thoughts on 81333.